we are loading into the first game of the match, starting off with Calamity playing Cenobite against Sinner Survivors.
Yeah, Marco here seems to have a pretty decent solid build. Already loses his ruin though, but finds the box also. That's a very fast ruin find from Sinners though. That got broken extremely quick.
Yeah, that's one of those like 2019 Ruin meta. I spawn on the Ruin, I break the Ruin, the killer disconnects. We have seen actually with that sort of change to the gen kick mechanic, a lot of killers have been making this pivot into Ruin, especially in the event. We've seen it on like all range of killers, indoor killers, S tiers, M1s. Like Ruin is back in fashion, and it appears that Marco agrees with that assessment as Vinny's picked up the box, but right now it's not clear who Marco exactly wants to target. Sort of going for the teleport now after hovering mid-map for a little bit, so there will be a chase onto the Meg here. Good
Ooh,
luck, Meg.
doesn't get the chain though. That's gonna get her some distance, so that's gonna be a pretty good head start here for the survivors from Sinners. That's gonna give them a good bit of gen progress across the map too. Hey, actually, as a matter of fact, Marco's gonna head back. He's actually not gonna commit to that chase anymore. Meg gets a lot of distance on main, which makes that a little bit less of a viable chase to take.
Yeah, with Wretched Shot main being as strong as it is, and I don't think killers are typically wanting to bring Bam just on the off chance that they get that good window on main or like the good bus. So Marco just opting to just not chase there, but that gives weeJason time to make it over to Shaq. He's got Shaq pallet to pre-drop. He should not be giving a tag here, but
Yep. That chain does a really good job of slowing him down though. He'll find a tag immediately afterwards. That was really well played by Marco.
probably some impaling wire value, I think. And the important thing, I think that also now signals that corrupt intervention is worn off entirely. And one thing I wanna keep an eye on is we often see some pretty tight gen spreads on the top side of this map. There's also not often a lot of safety up there, and the survivors just broke one of those gens, which is
Ooh,
crucial.
that's so that ball from weeJason was so good.
Oh yeah,
Wow, I cannot believe he stayed alive there. That was so good.
this is what we're talking about with like the my oh well
Oh no! Oh, I think we cursed it.
we don't talk
I
about
think
that.
there's still a good chase regardless. I mean, regardless of that slight slip up there, like vaulting into the killer. I mean, obviously playing on ping like this as well, you do got to go for some prediction stuff, right? Like I think he was just predicting him coming around the corner, trying to pre-vault, right, and like kind of get the advantage. And you do have to make plays like that on ping. So you know, slip ups like that'll happen. It'll look kind of silly, but at the same time, that is kind of the optimal play is to try to predict. Either way, weeJason had a fantastic chase there. I think that was a really good first chase. Bought a ton of time. Two gens got done before that hook even came in. And with Ruin also being gone, they're in a really good position now, Sinners is, to maybe get a good result here.
Yeah, I think weeJason, we saw the spec hover over his build real quick. He had live, and that was like the one opportunity he was gonna get at that tile to proc that. And with the two gens that pop crucially, look, if we see this, there's not really a 3-gen remaining anymore. The closest thing you have is like 2 gens kind of around Shaq and the one by the hook, but they broke any possible 3-gens top side. They broke any like good 3-gens bottom side. So I don't know if they're gonna try to 1-for-1 for this. They can possibly get the slowdown. It looks like Gustavo is in position to try and go for it. But let's say they go into that 1v3. They're chilling. They don't have a super oppressive 1v3. Ruins out of the picture. Like, Sinner Survivors have done a really good job of playing this out cleanly so far.
Yeah, they're definitely set up to get a pretty good result here as long as nothing goes terribly wrong. It looks like they're not opting to try to go for the 1-for-1, so I believe Ace just may be hovering to grab the save once the killer walks away here. And they're going to take the 2-man gen progress that they've had this whole time as well. Although that does obviously, there is always that balance between, you know, whether you put all 3 survivors on gens or you have somebody hover right in position in case the killer walks away. And they did only have 2 on gens, but still, again, kind of like we said before, with all the gen progress they've had throughout the match, they're still in a really good position gen progress wise. And Live even coming in here to get Jason away from main.
Not just live, but also the good window. And now we're down to only 1 gen left. They popped the bottom side gen as well, so like weeJason is donezo here, but they've gotten like everything they need for it. The chain on also starting a little bit slow on the box pickup, but maybe also deciding it's not that big of a deal with the changes to the box that came in kind of recently. It's not too hard to solve this, but we might very well see a chase on to Meg once the hook comes in because of those chains slowing her down.
I love how caster curses always kicks in, man. Like in the middle of you saying it, we see Meg getting harassed by chains, but yeah, she does end up getting the solve. And like you said, now we're in this 3v1 scenario. Really not a bad position at all for sinners at the moment. Like really not at all. There's 3 survivors up. They're all healthy. There's no one that's even injured at the moment. They have a really good gen split. I mean, look at how far away that corner gen is behind Shaq back there. That is so far. So yeah, very, very good position. They can even like close this out before the next pain res comes in if they really play this well. And yeah, Marco gonna be kind of struggling to get anything going. He's definitely got to try to make sure he secures something here for a total result for his team.
We also noticed Vinny's positioning here, taking the box all the way down to Shaq before trying to solve it. You got a gen there, and the other gens are kind of far away from that. So if the killer commits to you, you can just work the other 2 gens for free. Yeah, there we see 2 players, I think doubling the same gen top side. And if he doesn't, then you just work the Shaq gen. And this is the part of the game where survivors are also going to be looking for, okay, where are our exit gates? Can we have our teammate just die away from them? Because Pinhead just doesn't have any actual mobility himself to interrupt that. If you're there, we've seen that time and time again.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like they actually are splitting 2 gens. They're on both the one by main as well as one by Shaq. So one of them will get hit by pain res, but because they're split, there's really no way to stop both of them at this point, right? Like one of those gens is gonna pop for sure. But in Marco's favor, he does at least get the hook with pain res. If he's lucky, he can maybe manage to find a little bit more before end game, but doesn't look like he's gonna be able to locate this survivor. And yeah, I think also the lack of endgame perks, right? Like you mean like the lack of anything like Noed and everything as well means that this endgame might end up being a little bit harder still, right? Like there's not even really a guarantee you can make much more happen once it gets towards the late game.
He's crucially got both of his gates are pretty close to each other. They're like with an eye shot, and Meg is right next to them, both of them, and the box is here too. I think. Oh, and Meg is adrenaline. That's so unlucky.
Oh yeah. Also, the chase is being taken far away from as well, so they get to get on the hook. They also get to solve the box. And I'm a little surprised he's actually committing to this. With that, like that box teleport, like you said, is right in between the gates. Like he is gonna.
I think the decision is he has so low stages right now that he wants to play for freshes, especially because maybe he can try to camp ace depending on where you can hook him, and maybe secure like a 2k7 3 fresh. I don't think he wanted to just camp the Meg out and, you know, because also Meg being hooked between the gates means it's possible they just pressure the gate like at 12 and then 2-man save, and there's not a whole lot you can do about that. So,
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I think the best bet is just trying to get ace on hook. Although they're here for the body blocks, and this could be rough. This could end up being a 4-stage game.
he's out.
And it looks like it will be. I think they're out. Yeah, but the body blocks are here. They're building a human wall, and there you go. 4 stages ends up being the final result for Marco. Incredible performance from Sinners. We went into this already saying about how we thought this Pinhead set was looking very, very in the favor of Calamity.
This time,
I mean, don't get me
in previous Sinner games, they have played someone else on this killer, so weeJason picking up most of the killers for Sinners will be making his return here.
Yeah, this is an interesting build. Like, my first is not even running a perk like Sloppy Butcher, which we see is usually a very popular choice. Opting for the Agi with double regression. And we'll see how that works out for him. I mean, if you can pop off, this feels like it could end up being a very strong build.
Banner's pop being very traditional. I think this might actually be the first time we've seen a Cenobite not go for Sloppy, and there's a head-on from inside his power. And now the chase is switching onto Pedro, and a teleport on the box. weeJason is just splitting his pressure over everyone. Once again, now Chase will be at main, and we'll have to see. The survivors did get the good window this time, but the main building's oriented a little bit differently, and I don't think Laser's gonna be able to make that, so he's running towards mid-map instead, and he has a good loop here, but this should be a tag before he can get to anything.
Yeah, and he wants to head deeper in, so he's going to be heading his way in towards Shaq. Probably going to try to utilize this. It's extremely strong pallet here to try to buy more time, and again, like kind of like we saw last game. Like last game started off with a really good first chase and a very slow first down. Well, not a very slow first down, but a decently in terms of survivor, they did a really good job of buying time. And we're gonna definitely make sure we see the same here, right? If weeJason can find something early, that's gonna be massive towards this win con.
Yeah, I mean, Shaq is my favorite filler palette. I don't know about you.
Same. I do love me some Shaq filler. Yeah, absolutely.
With Hein taking Chase over at these double windows though, and there was a strong filler palette that got dropped right next to him, but he doesn't really have anything else to work with, and we know he doesn't have Lithe because Marco had it, so he doesn't really have anywhere to go. This is, if nothing else, a bloodlust game before he gets tagged, and we'll have to see what they're able to do. I think we see another survivor who's sort of in the area, so it is Laser. So we have 2 survivors kind of running around the mid-map. the crane pallet is getting dropped, and now Chase continues on it. I think weeJason can just be content to zone him here, but...
Impaling wire is still getting him too. That was for so long after the wires were still kicking in. Pedro's here to take a hit though. That will get him some distance away, maybe towards main. Looks like Jason wants to try to get around, but isn't going to be able to find a way. The hit's going to come through and get him some more distance. And again, this has been a pretty good start thus far, but Jason has gotten quite a bit of tags.
Yeah, 3 injured survivors at 4 gens now. We do have our first gen being completed, and there's no sloppy in play, but the survivors are giving a lot of tags. I wonder if that's part of their decision to do that. We actually have a 2nd gen pop as well, so even with all the altruism coming in with these body blocks and that head-on play earlier, the survivors are at least getting 2 gens done, and they still have a lot of work cut out for them, as we have to measure, you know, how much resources are they going to have left by the time this first down comes in, and where are the gen spread going to be on this first hit, because we have Agi in play too.
Heinz pathing right there was so good. He was basically good as dead edge map there, but he managed to kind of get one over on the weeJason, and he managed to make it to this filler somehow, even though he really didn't have the distance for it. And that's huge. A 3rd gen pops. Calamity's popping off.
They have no choice.
This is so good.
Here's the thing you got to be worried about if you're Calamity, right? Shack pallet's down. You cannot die at basement because of the win condition.
Ooh. Hein getting with that vault though. Hein doing so well in this chase.
He has almost nothing to work with, and he's still making it work. It's actually very impressive.
I mean, at this point, would dying at basement matter? I mean, I think it only matters if there's gens nearby, right? Because hypothetically, the person in basement could even just die at this point, I believe, as long as you get the gens done and get out.
Yeah, it would just be really hard to try and defend that if, oh well, now we're greeting. This is actually turning into an absolute tragedy for weeJason here. Like, everything is being used for everything it's worth, and he's just not able to get a down.
Bro, Hein is insane. This is such a good chase. How is he still alive? I feel like he should have been dead like 5, 6, 7 times now, but he just refuses to die. He just refuses to go. This has been so good. And now he's even buying more time going on this truck. He is definitely, unless head-on, maybe? No, there's actually gonna be another body block. Yeah. So more body blocks coming in. Kind of like you said, the lack of sloppy means that they can reset each other and come in for those body blocks even better. And it looks like the killer's actually bailing from that chase. He said, "No more Pine, no more. We're gonna look for something else."
And not only that, remember, Hein's doing all of this on like 150 ping.
Yeah, exactly. It's so incredible. Like, this is so crazy to see. Like, the level of play that takes is absurd. Like, that's so impressive. My lord. The down does finally come into Marco. Marco didn't have much resources to work with. Obviously, they've used most of them with that insane first chase. But Painteress and Pop does come in. They're still sitting at 2 gens left.
But keep in mind, look at where the hook is, and that's sort of in the middle of this triangle. There is a bit of a gen spread there around where the hook was. And now Hein has been found. Are we back for round 2?
Back for round 2, I guess. Oh, that chain lands. Round 2 might not last as long.
Oh, unlucky. We saw for like a split second there, Hein's camera was being pointed through the gaps in the Auto Haven wall to like see where the killer was pathing. It's one of those things you can do on this realm in particular. You have those cracks in the wall, and you can also sort of angle your camera down to see over the wall. But it was just a little bit too hard to see around that wall, and that's the second fresh hook. And this is where things start to get a little bit spooky, because a third fresh hook means 4. A third fresh hook means 4 is win, and we're already at 2. And after those initial gens pop, we're getting the slowdown coming in from the pain res and the pop. And now this is where we see if Calamity can keep up with the pressure. Is now they also have to go for the box. Adam has been found picking it up, but he's far enough away from the hook and these gens as that distant gen pops. So these are our final 3 gens, and weeJason is not going to commit to this. He just wants to hold this side of the map. This is his territory. We see Laser running in the distance to pressure another gen, and weeJason throwing out possibly those chains just to slow survivors down.
Yeah, this is getting really close, because it looks like he's maybe will secure Hein to struggle, and then at that point it's going to be next hook stage on anyone other than either Hein or Marco would be the win, right? Like getting that final fresh hook. So
it wouldn't be win. He would need 4 still. So if Hein goes second, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah, like if he goes struggle, which he does now. Yeah. But yeah, we're getting really close, right? Like one more hook stage on the non-freshness would be a tie, and one more would be or one more fresh hook would be a win. Finds Marco, that is not fresh hook.
And the thing is, with only Laser being the last healthy survivor, that makes it very difficult to try and go for his altruism anymore. And then on top of that, a lot of the resources of the map have been used. Now, chase being taken towards topside, there has not been chase here before. The survivors do have pallets to work with, but these are not super safe. And Hein just honestly playing a little bit more greedy than you would normally see. But he doesn't have a lot of a choice, and it pays off.
He's doing
like, I
so...
want nothing more.
Bro, High is locked in, dude. He's locked in. Oh my, he just keeps making everything work somehow. Like, he just keeps finding himself in positions where he should just be dead, and then he just doesn't die. It's crazy. And on top of that, weeJason actually chasing Hein there was an interesting choice, because I believe it was Pedro that unhooked, right? Who was a fresh hook. And I think if he just maybe went after Pedro instead and just got that fresh hook, that would have been the win condition met, right? Because even if he catches Hein there, that secures the tie when he kills him. And that's it. But now Clamor's in a position where they can maybe even just win this, right? If he doesn't find a down.
Ideally, he wants to find Pedro. But Laser takes the tag, but Laser has hope. And he's got an Atom to body block for him. This should be them getting out. And even, okay, so if once Pedro takes tag, I don't know if he gets enough distance, but he has no one who can body block. Looks like weeJason's trying to sort of path around to try and get a chain. He might be able to do it.
But the chain will let Adam get in the way though again. So yeah, there's no way. There's no way. There's no way. Calamity they actually take that. Wow, dude. Wow. 3 stages. 3 stages for Jason there, and Calamity still takes that set. Wow, that's gotta be heartbreaking for Sinners, right? Oh my lord, they played so well on the survivor side, and then Calamity was just like, hold my beer. And then this was so good. Like, bro, Hein absolutely demolished this set on the survivor side. Very, very skilled here and talented. On top of the survivors, I think probably feeling good about just their ability to outplay this set in general. And we're already off to the races.
Yeah, we've got weeJason immediately finding Laser. Laser drops a pallet, and weeJason just dips. Finds someone else, another pallet being dropped, and trying to play around the tile with the unicorn medallion and the egg. This might actually be a tag. Ooh. Egg value, baby.
Yeah, egg is so good. So good. Very, very early hit on the Hein, and here goes the chase. And we'll see if Hein can retain his unkillable status that he had from last game, because, yeah, he was quite the menace last game. weeJason seems to be on a little bit more of a comfortable killer. Actually, finds another immediate hit onto Pedro with power as well. 2 very fast tags.
Probably not terribly invested in chasing Hein as his first chase. Is it down? No. Pedro does dodge second dash, drops the firecracker, not getting value out of it, but now the chase being brought around this harvester, another strong pallet being dropped, but this is buying all the survivors of Calamity time as Pedro runs up the hill, showing off that he's going to have balanced landing. And does he make that? No.
Who subs his toe?
Yeah, this is getting a little bit tragic.
Yep, and this is going pretty well for the survivors thus far, for sure. They're definitely buying some time. I think Jason, if he can still get it down with like this next set of dashes, which he... Oh no! Another set of 2 dashes down, has to wait for power cooldown. Pedro, I think at this point, Pedro is probably just going to be going to the side of the map, most likely to die. Has a spiller, but yeah, his days are clearly numbered. But still,
are doing a heads-up job of pre-dropping. You know, they're playing safe on the ping, and unfortunately for Pedro, that pallet you can't really play that way. It's just not safe enough, and the swing around the corner is enough. But with 2 gens popping for that first chase, we'll have to see how the gen spread looks. I think those were more or less one side of the map, and laser pressuring Shaxton is interesting to me. I feel like whenever I play this set on any killer, the Shaxton feels so rough to try and do, because the killer's just always passing through that way and interrupting you.
Yeah, it's so easy to get to that gen from basically anywhere on the map. Yeah, so it's very, very difficult. Yeah, it's a little bit. It is like an interesting. It feels like when you tackle that gen, you have to really just powerhouse it out and make sure it gets done. They're honestly in a pretty good spot though. Like the unhook comes in, and this feels like the kind of start that you. This definitely doesn't feel like a guaranteed 4K by any means for weeJason. So again, that streak of 4K with Wesker could end up coming to an end here. Although this should be a pretty fast rebound, I believe.
Yeah, and there's Eruption, but n Pedro at least doing a good job of getting away from that side of the map. You saw he was hooked sort of loosely in a 3-gen-ish area with where all the resources were down, and he doesn't get as far away as he'd probably like, but it's far enough away that weeJason cannot pressure his hook and also pressure these remaining gens. And weeJason is kind of wrapping around through the dead side of the map to try and catch someone off guard. He will spot Laser here, but I don't think it's going to be terribly worthwhile to try and chase him there. So he's just going to use his bounds for mobility to get back into the hook, as he will see Laktrin going for the pull. It is going to be a free pull because of the recharge on the bounds, but now we'll see if Pedro is able to get anywhere before the tunnel, as actually Laktrin just takes the M1 tag before the tunnel comes in onto Pedro, who has balance, but you can't really proc that on that tile anymore. So I think now Pedro's just going to try and find a spot to die, but he does have a filler pal. Does that smash it?
I think that was, yeah. He gets so much distance there. He barely makes that filler too. weeJason tried to dash ahead of it, but he does end up making it. And now he's just going to be trying to play Shack, although back Shack is very dangerous. And yeah, clean dashes from Jason there to get this kill. And this is going to be the kill with still 3 gens up, which is kind of wild. This a lot feels like it happened very efficiently. It started, like, I think the first hook came in with 3 gens up, and it's going to be ending with basically 2 gens up. So, oh, he slammed Laser into Laktrin. Oh no, 2 L states right there immediately, also putting Laktrin in deep wounds.
And we do actually have confirmation. It was my bad. The Atom did not have balance landing at all. He was doing it to throw off the Wesker's power. He did have just smash it. Balance landing is on the ace instead. And this can be where we have the momentum swing with, you know, multiple injured survivors, a lot of resources being down. This is a survivor zoned away from like the entire rest of the map. I don't know if Laktrin's gonna be able to make anything from here. Again, we got these really shaky auto haven filler pallets, and Laktrin trying to sort of mind game that he might be playing it, keeps holding W, and he will get grabbed. And with Eruption also now revealing that yes, in fact, Laser is still on that gen. I think it's Laser. We're gonna have possibly a Painter to interrupt that, and the triple regression build is going to mean cracking these last 2 gens, but like 4 on the map is going to be super rough. And is weeJason suspecting someone might be in the basement?
I think he heard somebody back. Yeah, I think he heard Laser back here. So yeah, he finds Laser, and again, this chase he has this like LT wall, but not much beyond this, I think. Well, actually, no, yeah, there is a filler here. I stand corrected.
But the filler also gives weeJason a little bit of like vision on the cross, so we will spot Hein going for that save. Hein's not going to try to 1-for-1, but the thing is now weeJason knows what everyone is doing, and the answer to that question is not gens.
Yeah, exactly.
He can
Yeah,
just sit here. He sees both of
yeah.
them running in the distance. Like they have to sort of commit to, yeah, Laser's probably gonna get on this car pile gen, and Hein might be still hovering, but they're certainly gonna let Laktrin go to second, and I don't know if they can afford to try and pull, because they do have 2 gens that are both on the other side of the map. Laser's working one, Hein's sort of, I guess, positioned to try and force weeJason for the pull, but now with second being secured, weeJason just gonna go over to the gen that we saw Laser pressuring before, which is not the one that he's on now. So Laser is gonna get that gen to about 50%, and with this gen being kicked repeatedly, that might actually have the new regression mechanic coming into play.
Yeah, Eruption is like a speed run for that mechanic, man. Like it gets that mechanic going so quickly. That being said, that's even if we end up getting there, because Laktrin going to be in some trouble here. weeJason already on him, and he is Death Hook. He's heading to the edge of the map to die. So there he goes. That will buy some time. Laser will likely be able to get the gen done that he was working on. But from there, what do you do, right? I feel like they don't have much progress beyond that. They're going to try to scrounge up a way to maybe finish the final gen, but it's going to be extremely difficult. It's looking like weeJason's streak might stay alive of getting 4K ones here on Wesker.
Yeah, with Laser pressuring that gen with Deja this entire time, we know that Hein has not had time to pop another gen. You're not going to be... There's not realistically a world where Calamity can pop another gen. I don't think they have resources for it, yeah. And so now Laser probably just gets dragged into basement. But... Or possibly for that Painter hook over there, yeah, that is apparently what weeJason wants to go for. I don't see a world where Hein's able to get another gen here.
Yeah, no, there's no way.
Do I get good gate RNG? But
Yeah, yeah, it feels like it's gonna be very difficult to get out of this one, but definitely for sure they're only popping 4 gens, so yeah, that it feels like unless something crazy happens to end of this game, it feels like the win con now for Sinner Survivors is gonna be popping 5 gens to win. But I mean, we'll see. I mean, we'll see what Hein can cook up here in terms of like crouching around and trying to make something happen again. Kind of like you said, maybe something like Gate RNG could happen and maybe get him some kind of value out of this, out of the rest of this. But this was a really impressive showing from weeJason. I feel like that early game was actually looking kind of rough. Like Calamity seems like they got out pretty ahead early on here, and again, I even called it. I was like, oh, his 4K streak might be over, but he really made it work, man. Like I feel like once he got that initial down, he just from there just started hitting everything. Just like never really messed up any dashes. Was kind of just very on top of it and was clearly in the zone. So I'm very impressed with how he turned this one around.
Yeah, I mean, there was a bit of a point where the resources were down, and then part of it I think was when I think it was Pedro who was the tunnel out at the beginning. When after Pedro got unhooked, he basically had to path through a fairly dead portion of the map. Like there's like nothing over here by like 12, and so as soon as he got unhooked, he had to run there to die in a better spot. But once he ran there, he had nothing to work with, and it was just impossible for him to get away from that tunnel out. And the first chase was fantastic, but the second and third chase just he had nothing to work with, not much you can do. And speaking of which, Hein is giving us a scenic tour of that portion of the map. Once again, you're not going to be able to make hatch, and this will be securing that 4K1 for weeJason.
Yeah, and this is exactly what they needed, right? Like we went into the set talking about this, about how the momentum was in the favor of Calamity after that pinhead set, and how well they played the survivor side, and how huge it was for them to like pull that out. And this is exactly what Sinners needed. Like they really, really did need this. I mean, oh, nice game sense. Also being able to pinpoint the locker that he was in too. That was actually pretty massive. Um, but yeah, I mean, this is still like really huge though. Like this definitely brings it back. I feel like morally, it's gotta be a big booster for Sinners to be able to feel good about this, right? Obviously, they're not like out of the woods. They still have to try to get 5 gens done here against Wesker, which is not necessarily free by any means, right? Like it's not like Calamity's out of this, but this is definitely a good result that puts them in a position to most likely be able to tie this up and make it a 1-1, as opposed to maybe feeling a little more hopeless.
I think yeah, tieable. We have not seen too many ties this event. We've only had two. One of them was a Wesker set that Sinners played, which was tied 4K1, which I mean Sinners went on to win. But I think 4K1 is one of those win cons where it's like, okay, that's something we can play to, even if our last 3 gens are really difficult to break. We're
Not
getting egg and at least egg in uni again.
It's
As
the
the
best
Laktrin
combo. It's the best combo, okay? It makes sense, you know? And he actually is going for brutal. So this might be a good test, right? All that stuff we were just talking about brutal, we might actually see if I was actually just talking out of my ass or if I was actually making sense. We might see here. Cuz yeah, I do feel like brutal seems a lot less good on an Auto Haven type map rather than a Macmillan one. But Laktrin seems like it's probably still worth running, and we'll see if his choice here is correct. Oh, doesn't quite get that. Would have been a really good start if he found that hit on Vinny there. That would have been a disgustingly good start. He would have been able to slam him way off to the side edge map.
And this is also possibly though where we might see the zoning coming in if we're trying to force. Oh, pallet stun
Oh,
is super good from Nia. Now she's not going to get as much distance because of brutal, but I think it's hard to see if she actually has a good pallet to reach. I don't think she does. She's kind of zoned on this tires. This will be a tag on her. Laktrin might go for an M2 anyway to get her infected, but he will just take the M1 tag, and that gives her the speed that she needs to make Shaq. Can probably pre-drop it, but he's going to pull out his bounds now. And he's not quite able to make it, so the Shaq Ball is pre-dropped. Brutal Strength coming in, but Nia now has her pick of the litter of where she wants to take this chase. She's going back to where Chase started, so I guess deciding that she does not want to interrupt her teammates working gens elsewhere, this is the best place for her to die, even though she's zoned a little bit into the corner of the map. This is a good palette to play.
yeah, but you're definitely right. That the rebound. Okay, really good rebound. And yeah, I kind of like you were saying. I think Nia definitely heavily prioritizing death position here more than trying to go on some like 3 gen juicer chase, right? I mean, that's very often the better play. Like your options there as survivor is to run towards your teammates doing gens where there might be more resources, but obviously you're gonna interrupt the gens. You might also get like down and hooked in a position that's really, really bad for your team. Like I think Nia going for the smarter play there, kind of heading into the corner. Although tries to play that filler, Laktrin does get the better of it, and not a bad start though for Laktrin at all here.
No, I would say so. Certainly, the fact that he got that first down, much quicker than we saw in the previous game is a good sign. Now, the trade-off here is Nia used fewer resources for that, so we can be expecting to have some longer second and third chases possibly, although Nia, once again in chase, she is still infected. She has a decent pallet here, but she's kind of zoned if it's broken from the other side.
Yeah, I'm a little. Yeah, I think I think Laktrin quickly tried to. Yeah, I think he tried to outplay it once quickly, but I think he's totally content with just kicking this with brutal. And yep, clean double dash, getting a follow-up hit on her.
And that portion of the map being such a dead zone, we saw with Pedro earlier, like, you have so little resources to work with there inherently. Vinny doing a good job to get away from that and getting some pallets, but I guess the second dash not quite able to connect there, as now Vinny is going to be fully infected and injured down here, and still not really in a gen cluster, so not a bad spot to die, and that also maybe buys Sinner Survivor some time to, yeah, they're working on this car pile gen, and they also have a gen in that deep pocket that both would have been a little bit inside of Wesker's bound range from where the old hook was. So yeah, a good death spot here as well. We see all of those remaining gens are far away from this.
Yeah, very, very good death spot. This gen here is going to be losing some progress though. It was at about 50, and it's going to be regressing now. So they are going to lose some progress there. But yeah, the current setup right now with this hook being pretty deep in this pocket, and then the other gens, like the main 3 gen is definitely far away from this, and they're currently cracking that as we speak. So yeah, Center's in a pretty good like gen macro position here. But honestly, the pacing here is very similar to last game. I feel like this feels very similar pacing to what weeJason had on Wesker. So this still is kind of anyone's game at this point.
Bucky going for the live save. Oh, does not get thrown. That's huge. And both dashes. That's actually massive. Because remember, Sinners know they just have to pop 3 gens. They don't need to survive.
That is 100% true. Vinny here just going to try to buy as much time as he can. Does have balance landing for this hill. Needs to be careful though. Yeah, he's gonna get good value out of that. We'll be able to make this pallet gem, and then probably gonna head to the corner to die again.
Top corner, let's go.
But that was
yeah. Go ahead.
I was gonna say that was huge to be able to get that unhook with only like 1 tag coming in, and even the tag was kind of late. That was pretty massive from them. Like buys a good bit more time without too much punishment involved. And honestly, looking pretty solid now. 2 gens left in the 3v1.
And I do want to highlight here. Bucky gets caught out on the reset. I wanted to point out one of the things that happened for this particular event is the balancing for Survivor is a little bit more lax. So the Survivors are allowed to bring a brown medkit into this they normally wouldn't have. So Bucky, being the Survivor who took that tag for the unhook, was actually able to reset himself, which is something you normally wouldn't. But he is caught out on that. And again, but he's dying in a corner far away from everything. And the Survivors kind of have the option to not even play for this save and just crank out those last 2 gens. That is not a pain res.
Pain res. Yep, that's rough, man. That's really, really rough. Pain res would have helped a good bit in at least stalling this out a little bit more, but instead Hook comes in, throws down the pop on that gen. You think popping that gen was a little...
No, I think it's odd. Like, yeah. I don't think you care about that one because those 3 on the other side, those are the ones you should be caring about. So unless Laktrin just thinks, oh, well, they're not, like, yeah, they were definitely working that one. I don't know what the thought process is. I don't think you let that one go.
Yeah, it might have been like I think one of those gens is about to pop anyway, maybe. But yeah, it does seem like maybe it's definitely surprising to see him not take that pop into the gen setup. He does lose 1 more, and now there's only 1 left, and he's kind of just hovering in between these gens. I mean, this isn't terrible that he has here, right? I mean,
yeah,
it's okay. Well, it's pretty bad, but it's not like awful. It's not like it's the complete opposite corners, right? Like he can kind of sit in the middle and kind of triangulate it, which I think is what he's doing, while also trying to keep an eye on the hook.
I mean, weeJason just having that sprint burst ready to come off cooldown with Vigil. This is now with the second stage being confirmed. Now Laktrin is still not quite committing, and the thing is, with Bucky having perfect vision on where Laktrin is, Gustavo can just keep working Shack sort of unhindered, and I'm pretty sure that this gen will be finished before Bucky dies on hook.
Yeah,
I'm going over that pole.
Ooh. Yeah, I think Laktrin kind of aware that he can't just keep doing that until he dies. Yeah, he's going to have to eventually leave in pressure, and he does. That allows the unhook to come in, and this is where these chases are going to matter a lot, right? Like how long this takes. They already get the reset on the Bucky as well. That was a pretty fast reset. So they're already all back to full health and back on their feet. They'll be back on gen soon.
Yeah, I think they're confident. Ooh, okay,
And a
and
throw.
a throw closer to the gen spread too.
Yeah, Gustavo's going to try to get away, but this pallet's thrown, right? So yeah, I think there's nothing here. And pretty fast down. Could potentially be a pain res. And I don't think, unless they immediately hopped on Shack and are doubling it, which they did. Okay, but that's like the only way it pops. But even then, I think pain res, if he finds a pain res hook, it'll still interrupt it. It's just going to come down to the pain res. Yep, does find it.
Now, I think, okay, so Bucky is staying on that gen. weeJason sort of stealthing away to make decisions. Okay, he's not staying on it. I think if they did not reach that 5% threshold to basically deny a follow-up pop, that can be huge here. But if this gen gets popped as well, they're going to lose everything that they were working for.
Yeah, it's a very interesting thing now, right? Because again, like I think stopping their aggression is actually kind of difficult. It's much more difficult, right? So getting this pop value, the follow-up pop value is a lot less free than it was like before the patch. Because yeah, pop is not going to come through in that gen, which is actually pretty beneficial for the survivors. They get to keep a little bit more of that progress. They only lose 25% plus whatever regression is coming in now. And Laktrin right back onto Gustavo. Not going to let him get very far.
I think he has to slug here.
Yeah, looks like he agrees.
Yeah, they will get distance away, but it is so hard to just manage everything right now because you know that gen is so close to being done. And the one sort of silver lining here for Laktrin is where Gustavo died, he can be dragged deeper into this gen spread. But even if you decide to just leave Gustavo slugged, you can sort of check in on him, or you know, okay, if they pick up Gustavo, I've got now 2 people I can target.
Yeah, and you know vaguely where they are, right? Like he's not going to be crawling too far away from like that little like bus setup area that he was at. So yeah, it's like it's still good information. It's still good pressure. Still having that down. You're having somebody like pretty much completely out of commission until he gets picked up. You generally know where he is. So yeah, definitely an okay spot to work around. But the survivors have been handling this very well. Not really doing good. Like they've been doing a good job of kind of like hiding themselves as well as keeping a lot of distance. Oh no, farming. Poor Gustavo gets farmed though.
Okay, that was actually really funny though.
Dude,
They are back on track.
dude, like Jason practically had Gustavo in the full Nelson. Like, go ahead, takes to his Wesker. Like, dude, he couldn't do anything. The poor guy. That's horrible. But yeah,
body blocking right there.
Yeah, true. That's a good point. Yeah. Just very, very high tier body block plays. Absolutely. That's gonna get the pop down on Shaq though. So pop actually is able to come through now. And let's give the second hook on the Gustavo. Now everyone but Jason will be death hook, right? So at this point, it's gonna start looking scary. And Jason's really the only somewhat decent chase to be taking on the survivor end here.
They don't have anything to work with really. Like they have the bus pallet still, and it's a decent pallet, but it almost feels like their main resource is psyching Laktrin out into coming back to the shack to make sure it doesn't actually pop. And okay, this is where we might actually have that gen kick mechanic come in. They can only do this so many times, so Laktrin has to make sure that he's getting maximum value out of his regression perks, because if he just keeps kicking that, then yeah.
Are they pressuring the gen like deep? Not? Is that? I don't know. I don't think they are. Because yeah, there's a gen deep in that pocket, which I was a little worried about myself. But yeah, it looks like it's not happening.
Well, the risky part is if you work that gen and you get caught out, you can't really save that very well.
Yeah.
The other gen that's not Shaq is also in like a really big dead zone. So weeJason now are just they're doubling again. So
yeah, he's slugging.
But without painters, I think honestly they can commit to this.
Yeah, I think they can too. I think they can die for it, which feels like probably the play, because that's all they got to do is just die for it. Oh, he takes Injured Survivor. Wait, do they get it? Oh, he kicks it. He kicks it for the 5%. Oh.
That actually is gonna be a tie. Wait. Laktrin's actually so 5-head for that.
Dude, that was so good.
Exactly what he had to. Yeah.
That was so dude. Okay, I cannot stress like how actually like that might have looked like not a big deal to somebody watching that has never been in a situation like that, but being able to identify which survivor's injured and then prioritize like getting the swing down on them, and then like also threatening the full health survivor with a grab, and then winning that little mind game with like getting the kick. That's so like clutch and heads up to do, man. That is way harder than it might seem. And that kind of a scenario as killer, like there is no way to not like panic at least a little bit, right? You're like running up on the final gen, they're doubling it. If they pop it, they win, right? Like you need to stop it. There's two people on it. You need to know how to handle that like immediately just by coming up on it and knowing exactly what to do. And Laktrin handled that so perfect. Like that might not seem like a big deal, but like I can't help but nerd out because that was so good. Like he handled that so perfectly. And yeah, like kind of like you said, that secures the tie here, which is massive. That's so big. And that was so close for Sinners too. It's got to be kind of heartbreaking on their side. They were literally like a second away.
It was a game of inches, but they just didn't quite have enough to get there. So, and also crucially, the hook coming in onto weeJason does mean that it is in fact a tie. If weeJason had bled out, having not been hooked before, it would have still been a win for Sinners. But I am being told the last time that a survivor actually bled out on records was about 5 years ago. So we're not going to be bringing that trend back.
Yeah, that seems pretty unlikely to be happening. Yeah. That's very impressive though. I mean, tying that up I think is pretty massive. That's gonna make us replay the set, yeah. So that's gonna be interesting to see. This gives them another chance to maybe keep this Mastermind set alive.
Right, folks, we are back replaying this Mastermind set between Calamity and Sinners after a very close 4K1 tie in the
Okay. What was that? Oh my God. Laktrin. Okay, Laktrin coming out explosively from the break. Yo, I think they took a 5-minute break. Yeah, I don't know what they were doing in that 5-minute break, but Laktrin came back ready to go. That was amazing.
There we go. Like, and keep in mind, we were seeing so many moments in the previous game where it felt like Laktrin's double, like second bound was just slightly off and it bought Survivor's time. This time he does not miss 2 perfect double bound combos and he gets a basement hook at 5 gens almost straight away with Shack Pallet down, I believe.
Wow, dude, this is an incredible start from Laktrin. This is so good. Holy, and Sinners now on the severe back foot. This is interesting now. Like they're on the back foot. This is this again. We talked about this before. Obviously, we're replaying the set from the tie, but the same rules still apply here. Like they kind of need this Mastermind set, I think, in this best of 5, right? Like I think if they lose this to Calamity, this is going to be very devastating to try to come back from. So them being on the back foot this early too now is that's a tough spot to be in. I'm curious to see how they handle this, but they need to handle it well if they want to stay alive here.
And that's one of those situations that's kind of rough to prepare for. Like when you're scrimming this set, or you're like, okay, so what happens if we have someone die at 20 seconds? Like, what's our game plan then? And it appears to be that their game plan is split 3 gens, trying as much as they can for it. They are on gens that are kind of far away. As Laktrin knows, he can afford to just camp this hook, get second stage for free. The survivors just can't go for that. No, you will.
Yeah, like what do you do here? It like the hook is like right in the center of the map in basement. Like the only gens you can safely progress are the ones that are really far out, like this deep pocket gen, right? Like it's hard to even have any gens that are safe to progress because of where the hook is. And Laktrin can kind of just patrol around. He might even do this the whole way till death, right? Like why not? Like this was so early.
Now, the one sort of silver lining for the survivors is it looks like the version of Wreckers that they got has the gens kind of more towards the edge of the map than you might normally see. And so they won't be as punished for working these. Under some Wreckers RNG, you might get, okay, you do your faraway gens, and then the last 3 you have are so close that your end game is just miserable in the 1v3. So we are likely going to see this come down to 2 gens very quickly. And now the test is going to be how well can Sinners play out the 1v3. Keep in mind, again, that chase happening so quickly does mean that they are going to have all of their resources to work with basically in the 1v3.
True. Yeah, that is very true.
And we've seen Sinners, again, I can't stress enough, we have seen Sinners win this with a just straight up DC at 5 gens. So
yeah,
they know they can at least try.
Yeah, this is like that, but with only 2 gens. Like, yeah, I mean, that's definitely a spot that they have been in before, but worse. So I'm sure they're somewhat comfortable. Although weeJason kind of zoned here, with Brutal also on edge map,
and he doesn't have the kind of filler pile there to play, so he's gonna die. Now, so now we have to know, is Laktrin gonna get a pain resonance off of this? And also, Is he going to be able to carry weeJason, you know, deeper into these gens? We hear a lot of progress from Vinny's gen as well. And that
It's
got
gonna
pain
get hit
res.
by
We
pain
heard
res.
that,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep. So
And then
pain res gets hit. Pop, if he can find Pop over to that other gen as well, that would be an
very
insane
close.
amount of regression.
But like even though we had such a miserable start and Pop gonna hit Bucky's gen as well, we have two gens that are actually reasonably well progressed, and the hook is at least far away from them. So Sinner's not that far away from getting back to that 4K1. Obviously, it's not as close because of how it was so close to being a 4K0 last game, but close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. So
Yeah, this is they handle this so well. I think this is something we see a lot when we get like a hook, especially like an early hook. You sometimes get to situations where the survivors have to try to balance out, like, okay, do we have like 3 on gens or do we have 2 on gens with somebody hovering to possibly unhook? These guys were just like, hey, Gustavo, sorry about your luck, buddy, but you're done, so we're just gonna let you die in basement. Ooh, that was a good juke from Vinny. But they totally just let him die in basement and just bash gens with all 3 survivors, and they've kind of just like have not let go of that. And yeah, even with that very early down, like you said, not a horrible position. So a lot of resources up, 3 gens done, and even still a good bit of progress on the gens that are left right now as well. It's still really anyone's game.
yes, and it looks like Bucky's probably on a gen because weeJason has not been healed and is also not spraying. Now, this is going to be a pain res coming in onto Vinny as well, almost certainly, because the hook is being... No, it's not!
Ooh.
Okay, so we will get to 4K1. And Fang with the med kit is actually resetting herself. Certainly going to be waiting to get the heal off before spraying. After all, spray will reveal you. Bucky will take a tag for that. But now,
Ooh, he
and
knows
now,
positions,
Laktrin knows
yeah.
everyone. Yep.
Yep, knowing
So what
positions
is he
here is
decide?
huge. He's
And
just gonna dip back and watch rotations, I believe, right? He generally knows. I think he just saw Bucky in the distance rotating towards that gen.
you can hold cross
So
here. And this is a little bit of a further gen spread than we had before. Also, like, because if you're working this hill gen, you have the option to sort of, with or without balance, you do have the option to kind of rotate around top. Whereas before, one of the remaining gens being in the pocket meant that if you get chased there, you don't have anywhere to go because the killers are always coming at you from your escape route. And that's
ooh.
kind of where Bucky's being pushed now. But he's just dying in the furthest corner that he can, as expected. He's got a rock, you know, if no one's got me, the rock's got me. Well, he's go for the tree instead. But
The unhook just now coming in. That is will make it so the heal will be really, really fast. But yeah, did manage to at least make it to a pretty far dying location. This final gen is gonna be very tough though. Like, do you think there's a like what do you think are the chances here that they actually break this gen setup? Like, I feel like
it's strange because we saw how brutal that start was. But if we think back to the game state that we had before, when we got down to that 4K1, honestly, the survivors, I think, are almost in a better position now than they were then.
yeah, yeah, agreed. I mean, they probably have more resources on the map, right? So
They
like
have
at least
more resources, but the gen spread being further, the only thing is they don't have any current progress, and they did have a
yeah.
little bit of that before. So
Jason not gonna get away with that one, and yeah, Laktrin feels like he's just keeping up the pressure right now. They can't seem to really get the better of him in chase for at least not for very long. And I think as long as he's continuously getting these hooks and downs, like I think they still don't have gen progress. Kind of like you were saying, like
yeah,
it's been quite a bit, and it's so hard, right? In these 3v1s, it can be very, very difficult if the killer is consistently finding you and getting the hits and downs quickly. So it can be very, very difficult to find any time to progress the gens at all. And Laktrin's been doing a really good job of keeping up that pressure. And here finds
absolutely.
another survivor, and it might just keep up. Well,
But look at this hook. That is like the
oh
best
yeah,
possible hook for
bro,
Laktrin, and another sky hit.
he
Same
goes
sky
again.
hit.
Oh my lord! Now
I
he's just
think
showing off.
I think the real difference in this game was not even that basement hook at 5 gens. It's simply the fact that Laktrin has been executing far more cleanly and mechanically. We're
Oh,
not having these narrowly missed double bounds.
yeah, yeah. Like it's like I think mechanically, Laktrin has just been so on top of this. Unfortunately, he gets that double dash into Bucky, but it only is a throw that does no damage. It was a little bit janky, but no damage done. But he follows up with an M1. He's got multiple people injured now. Vinny, the only full health survivor, he's gonna head back to the gen setup.
We do see
Does
scratch
find some
marks.
scratch marks. Yeah, this is the
Vinny,
full health survivor. So here's Vinny, the only healthy survivor, and gets hit through the pallet too.
Is she playing for Smash Hit possibly? I don't think she had it. I think she was
Parental
down.
guidance?
I'm not sure.
Was that parental
Uh,
guidance? I don't know where she went. I think she vanished. Yeah, it
yeah.
was. Yeah.
Smash Hit parental guidance.
Smash it, parental guidance. Yep. Just gets the palace done and vanishes into the night. You love to see it.
And
Actually, really good value there.
oh yeah, with DS, it's such a fun combo. You die on a pallet, DS the killer, Smash Hit them, and you're gone. You're just
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah, that's so nasty.
It's one of like the few times when you can like get away with running like Smash Hit and like a nurse set. It looks so troll, but if you actually pull it off, it does work.
Yeah, especially against Nurse, right? Like I feel like getting that distance against the Nurse is massive, right? Like that's almost like game ending. It feels like.
We've seen it before, but unfortunately the survivor wasn't able to break LOS, so DS and the Smash Hit was still like double blink range. So I think this is going to be the part of the game where I don't think Sinners can come back from this. I think this will be a 4K one again.
Yeah, that was another pain res coming in right there too. So if they even had any gen progress at all throughout this, it just got hit. So yeah, and as we can see right now, neither one of them are even on gens at the moment. So yeah, this feels like it's probably going to be another 4K one. So I'm excited for this to be another tie set and for us to be stuck in this Mastermind set forever. Unironically though, I would actually be about it. Like these sets are fun as hell to watch. I would actually be okay with being stuck here forever. But we'll see. I mean, this feels like Laktrin's going to get a 4K one, and again puts pressure on Sinners. They have to keep up the results and make sure they keep playing well. And I mean, we'll see. Jason's been pretty consistent with his Wesker thus far, but it's really going to be putting it to the test now.
And there's worse sets you could die. From a viewer perspective, certainly.
True. Yeah, we get out here, like fucking tying on Skull Merchant sets or something. You know, I'm more than happy to watch a ton of Wesker, bro. I'm all for it.
I vividly remember in the beginning of All Hallows League, at the end of like the first day, we're 4 matches in and we had a replay of a Wraith RPD set, and those were like already 15-minute games. So I'm glad we're not having a repeat of that.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Again, I think if it's a fun set, I'm down for as many replays as possible. You ain't gonna hear any complaints from me. They actually get the unhook there relatively for free.
It's also, I almost wonder when you have like mechanical sets like this, is there a component where, like, okay, we had the Pinhead set first, right? And it was Marco playing killer, not Laktrin. And I wonder, especially when you have a small roster and you're also playing Survivor, like when Laktrin pulled up to play that first Wesker set, he had not really had an opportunity to warm up before that. So in a weird way, that tie break, the tie that we just had, is kind of the warm up for the Wesker players going into the second set. So I want to see if we also have a bit of a level up from weeJason on his own mechanics.
True. I think the like flip side of that, if I wanted to like maybe play devil's advocate to what you said, is I almost feel like there may be a bit of fatigue as well, right? Like
Mhm.
this is also a best of 5, and the fact that we're replaying this, and like you said, it's like the same players. We've seen weeJason play Survivor every round as well for Sinners, and same thing with Laktrin. So these players are playing on both Survivor and Killer, and again replaying these like very like mechanical sets and everything. It could also do that as well, where you could kind of start to catch fatigue, right? I mean, this could potentially go the whole way to set 5, which would be, I don't know, 10, 12 games if you include this total. Like, that could eventually take its toll, right? And I feel like eventually you get to a point where you start to, like, slip off mechanically and stuff just from fatigue. I mean, obviously, we're not at that stage yet. Laktrin just feels like he was getting warmed up because he looked nasty this game. weeJason will not be able to finish this by the time Hatch gets kicked. So, yeah, I mean, another 4K one here, and pressure stays on.
1v1 me Shaq.
Yeah, of course. That's what end this. Come wreckers on 150 ping with no pallets on the map. Let's do it. Let's do it, man. All pallets thrown. Let's do it.
It's just a ladder match now.
yeah. This is actually for all the elo right here. Yeah.
I do really like the point about the fatigue when we think of, we don't know how practiced the teams are on some of those ladder sets. They're like with Cenobite, with Mastermind, we know these are comfort sets. They're the first pick from these teams, right? So I would be curious to see how that potential fatigue plays in when we start getting into some of the less comfortable sets that we have going forward, because our next matchup is going to be Plague after this, and that's maybe a little bit of an unusual one, also with the mapping what it is.
Seems to be a very effective thing to do. We actually a little bit from the from Calamity too. I think more so on the pinhead set rather than this one, but yeah, like definitely that like mixing it up between greeting and playing safe and keeping the killer on his toes is very, very good. And we see Jason with the exact same build, so not really changing anything up. Still going with the old triple regression. Worked pretty well last time.
Oh, I got caught a little off guard there.
Yeah.
We're sort of running into the Wesker, not expecting him to be there, but now he at least will be able to make Shack. Although Jason's got both dashes after this break.
Yeah, and I don't. He should there will be a mace out there of some sort. He also has this filler too, so he's got a little bit to work with here at least. He needs to be careful that that is reboundable, but even here it's kind of risky.
Almost egg value. Not quite.
I think he was just anticipating the flare out and he didn't get it. So
look at this gen setup. This is kind of gross. These two corrupt gens with like Shack next to it.
oh yeah, okay, interesting setup. And he's gonna get it down here as well. This is relatively decently fast down as well. Like still at 5 gens. There's not gonna be a whole lot of gen progress to speak of, right?
1/3 on, 2/3 on that, probably, and I don't think that was pain res unless it hit Laser's gen.
It did not. No.
I'm not sure, but the crucial it hit someone's gen. But the crucial difference here is that was a pain res hook as opposed to a basement hook. So the regression and also now the pop. The regression is coming in a way that it didn't in the previous game, where yes, the survivor just sort of died without any attempt to save them, but their death bought 3 gens worth of progress. And weeJason is not going for that, instead opting to actually get some pressure. Laser's gen got nuked, Laser got tagged, and now weeJason can kind of, again, hold the choke. Wreckers having Shack in the middle, you can just sort of stand there and you see if people are rotating. I don't really think of Wreckers this way, but we're seeing the killers almost playing these hooks like you would on Suffo.
Yeah, like kind of just like holding cross in the middle and kind of just keeping an eye on rotations. Yeah, I mean like the tag on Laser makes this a little bit better too, and weeJason seems pretty content with just forcing struggle. And he is going to do that. So there we go. Hein being put in struggle already. 2 gens are going to pop. Lasers is pretty close to popping too. So we're coming up on 3 gens popping for this, which again kind of matches pace to like the last one as well.
But with a loose 4 gen, which is different. So weeJason not going to commit to that. I wonder if he's now looking for whoever he suspects is going to try and go for the pull. Actually, no. It's unclear, and this car pile kind of getting in the way of double dashing back to hook. The survivors might just be trying to crank out more gens, but no, this is going to be a 1-for-1 from Laktrin, which again, another pain res hook here. And the question is, do you go for the pain res now or Trend Tunnel? No, it's going to be the pain res. Yeah. That makes sense.
He might even go for the pain res and then still stay on Hein, right? Like it's Wrecker's Yard, so even getting distance isn't that crazy because you know eventually you're going to hit the corner where you can take an angle on him.
And he's going to be infected.
Yeah, exactly, with the infection as well. Yeah, so no, honestly, not a crazy idea to just stay on Laktrin anyway, or sorry, to stay on Hein anyway. And yeah, so he looks like he will.
And so the read now is they're gonna probably pop. Liz's probably gonna pop the hill gen for that, not getting healed this entire time. Hein kind of being chased into a different area of the map. This is where he wants to be. Does sort of win that mind game, but now he's fully infected, and I'm pretty sure this is not a terribly safe tile against a Wesker, even without the infection.
Yeah, that's a rough tile regardless, but greeting it, playing very well. I don't think he makes this. No, he does. He actually does make the window, but I don't think he's gonna survive much longer.
Egg.
Yep, egg value. Honestly, the bottom decent bit of time considering, right? Considering the tiles that he stopped at, and also the fact that he was infected, not bad from Hein at all. Honestly, like pretty solid play there. Definitely bought it a little bit of time. Allows the unhook to come in with the reset. They don't quite get the reset on Laser, but they get 3 gens done. They get at least one of the resets. Laser's a medkit, so he can reset himself now. And very similar, yeah, very similar spot. Like you said, I think maybe the gen setup is a little bit better here for weeJason, but very similar spot as we found ourselves last game.
Yeah, I mean, if this set somehow ends up tied, I'm gonna have to check my calendar because it might just be Groundhog Day.
Yeah, we might be here forever, man.
Well, okay, we do get that, and I think Laser can be dragged deeper into this setup. I don't think. Wait, do we have a distance gen? Not really. So this is possible for Jason to try and hold these last 4, but I don't know because yes, there's a survivor dead. I don't think there's a lot of gen progress, And when we reached this game state in the last trial, we were down to 1 gen left, I think. So this is playable. Now, and I think this might also be a scenario where the eruption being in play matters a bit more. The question of, are the hook states matching with how many gen kicks you have? Because that gen had a lot of progress on it, does lose a lot of it, but now Pedro kind of has to be the one going for this. Actually, it's Laktrin gonna 1-for-1. I don't know if that will end up being worth it.
Yeah, that's an interesting play. Laser gonna body block, and yeah, they do have a filler here, but it's not the best filler. Okay, takes a hit during the stun, blind attempt, but do they both get away from this? Looks like he's actually, yeah, he's sticking to Laktrin here.
Laser could have DS, I guess. That could be the thought process.
Yeah.
Oh, clip that.
Yeah,
and it was Laktrin too.
That was going to the montage, baby.
Yeah, no, we're waiting to put that clip and the Skywesker from the beginning into the next Excise video. How Laktrin really plays DPD.
Oh no. Laser does get found and redowned though, but honestly, decent bit of time bought there. Pedro surely has been cracking a gen this whole time. So weeJason feeling the pressure, wants to slug. Clearly he, I think, wants to go for this win con if possible, right? Like he does not want to even give up one of these gens if possible, wants to just 4K too. That was an incredibly fast pickup though. What even just happened right there? That was so quick.
By eruption. I don't know. They have some healing perks. Like, okay, so maybe there's a world where Laktrin had will make it and still it out from picking laser. That's probably it.
I feel like probably, yeah, that was an incredibly fast pickup on that slug, yeah. And that's exactly what it was. He's also full healing him now, too. So laser back to full reset. And yeah, I mean, weeJason got, like, I don't know if I would say greedy, but he was trying to play around the win con there, right? Like, really didn't even want to give up even 1 gen, so didn't want to, like, take the chance to hook laser there. And gets a little punished for it, because they get that pickup very, very quickly. Laser's back to his feet, full health. Laktrin injured. They're in a much better spot than they were just, like, 30 seconds ago.
This gen is so close, and you only have so many, like, I really don't know how I feel about eruption, because that gen, we hear the sound effect, that gen is so close to being regressible anymore, and if you're not getting it with, like, pop or pain res, I don't know if that ends up being worth it, because this survivor is surely going to be dead soon, but there's going to be someone popping that gen. We're going to be down to a tie. I don't know if Calamity survivors can actually play for a win here, but
ooh, Laktrin sprint bursting. I mean, there's there's gen number 4, getting it before the eruption pop too. So no eruption value coming in. And yeah, now it's just gonna be a matter of can they try to actually get the win as opposed to the tie here.
I mean, if you're going into 1 gen left with only 2 survivors, it's basically and no gen progress. It's basically not winnable unless the killer has a stroke mid game. You can't.
Yeah,
like because he can just at that point any killer becomes hit and run. I mean, yeah, like depending on how your gate RNG is, you can maybe play for that. It wouldn't matter in that scenario. You can try and play for a fresh bleed out on Pedro, but most likely someone's in the call with weeJason telling him like, hey, if you have to pick someone, pick Adam.
Yeah, that was a huge find there on the laser too. Like laser was trying to hover for that unhook while Pedro cranked the gen at Shack, and laser gets found and tagged, and then also Pedro gets pressured a little bit. Laser still manages to sneak in and get the unhook even injured, so still not the worst spot. Laktrin unfortunately not able to get that fast vault in time with the endurance, so he's gonna go right back down. And like you said, yeah, this feels like it might end up being the kill with actually is Laktrin Deathhook? I think he is, right? Yeah, I believe he is. So yeah. So that'll be Laktrin dead, 2 survivors up, and yeah, I don't think there's enough gen progress here to really consider the idea of a gen popping. So it's kind of look like we're having another tie, another tie. I think we might be going into our 3rd Wesker set of the best of 5, maybe.
I think this would be the only time I've ever seen a double tie in DBD League. I'm pretty sure. I've seen. I feel like 4K1 is like the most likely culprit for ties. It's often something we see, especially on like old DDS sets. You'd see like Cenobite and Wraith on DDS being so consistently 4K1 that it was not that uncommon to replay those. But it's one of the interesting things every time the new seasonal balance comes out, where you see how the new map especially changes the expected results. I'm being told from Rats that there was a triple tie on Season 8, Elysium versus Eternal on Oni CT, which is incredible to me because I feel like that is a really swingy match that should not be
Yeah.
consistent at all. But
Yeah, that's interesting that's the set they got a triple tie. Like this feels much more likely than a set like that. Say, hey, maybe we'll break that record. Maybe we can, maybe we get the 4 ties, quadruple tie.
this,
Just the deafening silence after I say that is
yeah,
everyone's like, wait a minute, we're never gonna leave our, we're
yeah,
gonna be
no,
here
like
forever, huh?
when competitive matches the pub experience of Wesker fatigue.
Yeah, yeah, actually, yeah. Comp players now hate Wesker because they're so sick of seeing him after 5, 6, 7 tiebreakers in a row.
I mean, look, I've heard this expression many times, and it is true. There are two kinds of players in Dead by Daylight: people who hate Wesker and good players.
I like that. I like that. Yeah, that's a good saying, and I feel like I might steal that to be honest with you. This is an interesting spot because like hypothetically, like maybe if Pedro doesn't get found, they could do like the trauma tech thing here, right?
Yeah.
With laser, maybe like that's a possibility. But also that means you got to go what, like 3 minutes, like maybe a little less, maybe like 2.5 minutes without getting found, which is also kind of difficult. We saw him dropping his item over and over again and picking it back up just to try to stop crows from spawning. So that does help his case a little bit towards not getting found.
I mean, yeah, as we know, it can be absolutely infuriating to find that last survivor if they're good at stealthing. And Pedro so far doing a really good job. Like, yeah, so it what we're playing for here is Laser is going to try and get his bleed out basically 99, and then they pick him up. And then from that point on, Laser is basically free to work any gen, most likely this one that weeJason's going to now, because if weeJason were to down him or pick him up and drop him, he will just bleed out instantly, and that gives Pedro the hatch escape, which would be WinCon. This is called the Trauma Tech because I think Trauma was the team that did this first a couple years ago, and this is what they're playing for. And it's gonna look a little bit weird and maybe a little boring for the viewer, but it's actually a strategy, and it's their way out. And crucially, it is our way out of another tie.
No, I mean, I don't like. I think this is sick to be honest. Like, I don't even like. I know like the setup to it is kind of slow, right? But I think if they get it set up, it's so nasty. Like, it's so again, like the fact that like I'm assuming Trauma came up with it. I know it's named after them. The fact that they came up with this is wild. Like, this is such an interesting strategy. weeJason though does find laser, and he's actually just gonna take the hook now. So not. It looks like maybe the setup's gonna get interrupted.
hmm I mean, maybe deciding that that's just the only out he has. If he can't, if he lets Laser get that far, he has no real counterplay. And it looks like you see we got two gates that are close. He's got a hill between them, and hatches right here. So once Laser dies, then he can just kick the hatch, and these gates are not doable for Pedro. So
Yeah, yeah.
Ty coming in once again is going to be very fun, and this is going to be where the endurance game comes in. Are we
Yeah,
able to
like
get out of 4K1 eventually?
it's gonna be just a matter of fatigue. Like who can keep up with the good play for longer essentially is gonna be the difficult thing here. Um and I feel like if you're the killer on both sides, you're probably like how many times at the 4K, man? Like how many times like keep gotta do I have to keep putting up results before this ends up ending, right? It's gotta be like a little frustrating. But at the same time, I mean, as long as they both keep it up, I think they know that they're both keeping their teams in it, right? And there's a lot on the line here. This set feels like it matters a lot in this best of 5. So it's it's probably a bit tiring, but it's very important, right? It's very important that they actually are able to lock this up. So we'll see. And again, these gates should have realistically no chance, kind of like you said, but the hill in between them both being relatively close. I don't think Page is going to have much of a chance here. He's okay. He did do the thing where he opened it a little bit and then let go of it though. So if there is any attempt, it
Wait,
could be here. Wait, there's no way, right? Wait, there's no is there no terrorist? No, no,
he makes it.
no,
Oh my god. No
no,
way.
no, no. He's gonna try the. No!
Wait, Calamity 2-0?
What they win?
So, all right, the Calamity sparing us another tiebreak, taking this two up so far. We will be going into Plague, and I'm gonna be honest. at this point, I think this is going to be a 3-0. Imagine you fight so hard to try and win the set that you wanted, and you end up just coming short again. And again, Calamity just barely eking out the win they need when it did not look possible. They have to have insane confidence going into their own pick of Plague.
Clearly, that was made much harder because of ping. But we've seen some incredible chases from both teams here, where it's like genuinely so impressive, man. Like it is so hard to play this game on high ping, but they do so well with it. Oh, this build is spicy.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen, again, Ruin Undying, or just Ruin in general, being really favored now as an option with the gen change. So, and it kind of makes sense here as well, because you can pressure survivors a little bit more easily with the red puke, because you don't really want to be caught working. But we have one of those gens, or one of those totems rather, being broken relatively early, I think. So the question, and also, like, on a farm map, you know how annoying it can be to try and like spot the totems if it spawns in the cornfield? Like, how many times have you like literally run into the totem before you saw it?
Oh yeah, so often. Yeah, it like honestly blends really well. They find both immediately. Both totems are gone. Wow. So
This is
goodbye to half the build. Half the build just immediately deleted. He also gets his red puke immediately too.
and this is kind of what what Rat was talking about, where yes, the plague has her power, but that just means there's one fewer use of this power when it comes time to camp someone. When it comes time to try and snowball and injure survivors, yes, this is an early down. How much value is Marco going to get out of this? Because we're not expecting survivors to be cleansing against plague basically ever.
Yeah, this will be very interesting. We'll get a hook deep on this bottom side. It's a pain res. And again, it's so big because half of his build is gone. Like he has one perk right now, right? Like Corrupt is gone, Ruin and Dying both gone. He just has 3 stacks of pain res. That's all he has on his whole build now in terms of perks. So yeah, Ruin and Dying. I mean, again, I feel like Ruin, we've seen this perk pop off so many times. Like obviously it's one of those perk choices where it can be amazing and sometimes like looks like it's like the most OP perk ever in hard carries. But like again, in the nature of hex perks, sometimes this happens too, where you lose your totems, especially with Undying, you just lose them both. And now you're kind of in this weird spot where Marco needs to have a really, really good showing for the rest of this to be able to get a good result now.
Ruin in particular sometimes feels like a win more perk, where if you're in a really good game state, it just completely chokes out any chance the survivors have to you know, get gen progress like slowly in like 4K1, 4K2 situations. But like Marco now is just gonna have to try and camp for second here, but like the top side gen spread that we had has been broken, and it was a much better gen spread too. There is a bottom side spread kind of that's not
Yeah.
nearly as good. It will give the survivors more time to pad up in advance, and I don't think this
Did
is a
you
great game state.
did you catch where his other fountain is? Because he should have a second fountain thanks to his apple. I didn't catch where it is though. Because I think the position. Oh, it's okay. Oh, no. That's actually a good fountain because that's
Oh
from
yeah,
the
yeah.
survivor point of view. Yeah. I'm not
Um,
sure where it is, but
there it is.
oh, it's actually there. It's bottom side, and he gets it. And
So
they don't get the unhook in time, do they?
this will either way almost certainly be the death of Gustavo unless they get like a Palisade to knock Plague out of her power, because even with base kid BT, good luck chasing against this. I mean, Gustavo did a good job in the beginning to at least delay chase a little longer, but it was like possibly a chase onto weeJason, but no, really worried
Yeah.
behind Gustavo, who will try to make Shaq, does have the hay bale for
Oh.
cover and Shaq pallet. Is it enough time? Pallet broken, but what's his joshing? He does have
Live.
Tithe Resi. Wait,
Oh.
Gustavo gets that, and he's got a good filler palette here.
Yeah, got his
Rat's
got
vantage
the eye
point, but
palette.
Urban 2.
Urban too, so good. He's buying
Urban,
so much time here. If he could even just make it down towards top side, they actually they break the 3-gen bottom.
mhm.
Yeah, they
and
broke it.
Rugnuts leave.
Oh my god, that's
Because
massive. Ooh.
yeah, because you're now at the point where you've got 4 injured survivors from the green puke, and now you have to snowball with that last bit of power that you have. There is one cleanse coming through, and it's interestingly, it's not Gustavo cleansing, it is Bucky.
Yeah,
Oh,
that is very interesting to see. And it's also like kind of mid-map too, right? Like I feel like a lot of times when you see cleanses, they'll try to like put them really far away from where the pressure is. Like I thought that cleanse would maybe be like deep top side, but like
yeah.
it's kind of within range, right? Like he just immediately goes and grabs it. So that's an interesting decision to cleanse.
But they're doubling this gen topside, and with the pole being coming through, We don't really have eyes on where Marco is. Coming
Oh, he's
topside,
up here.
okay.
Yeah,
But
he is top
everything is
side.
up here. And as long as he does not find Gustavo, as it will be chasing Vinny, and I think we should be seeing the remaining 2 survivors working Jen's bottom side. But there's all these resources up, and it's easy to just play super safe here and try and wait out this power. As I'm honestly surprised that Vinny's technically in chase, as the LS has been broken. Yeah, no, chase has been broken. So we're
Yeah,
now
I
the
think
one
you don't even catch up there, right? I think you have to break that, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this
and
is
power is probably going to start running out soon. I know he does have the Devotee's Amulet that gives more time, but it's got to be getting close to running out. Oh, it does get down in time, though.
not quite.
Needs a pain res to keep us alive to keep endgame away for a little bit longer. They're almost surely doubling a gen bottom, right?
Yeah, and this is one of those points in the game where you become really painfully aware of like how long the map is. Like how far away is this topside gen from this bottom side gen?
Oh, yeah,
And
really
Plague
far.
does not have the mobility to try and cover both, especially with all survivors up. So they are going to pop the last gens. And you were asking earlier about expected results for Plague here. This is one of the killers that has the lowest average hook stages for all that we've seen. Plague is only getting like Plague and Oni both are only getting about 8 hook stages average. Most killers are in the 9 to 10 ballpark. The only kills we've seen that have had worse results are Spirit and Chucky, and we've seen almost none of it. So it's a smaller sample size. So this is not a lot of stages, but it is still also a lot less than we should be expecting. The game just not working out well for Marco, and we're seeing a lot of the punish on what can happen if you go for Ruin, and it doesn't pay off. Because I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure this happened in the Cenobite game too, right? At the beginning, losing Ruin, now
Yep.
doubling down with Undying, and that's still not quite
He
enough.
he finds the fresh hook though. This is a silver lining, and he gets it down really quickly. So this will at least save it a little. This should get him 7 stages because I don't really see a world where they try to save this, especially with all these pools of corruption. There's no way he's gonna hook him. He's gonna hook him right beside a pool of corruption too. So yeah, 100%. This is gonna be 7 stages I think from here, unless they want to get really crazy. But I don't see that happening because I think 7 stages is still like I think that's a good salvage result for Marco, right? Like this could have been much worse had he not found Death Hook. But I feel like if you're sinners, you probably still feel pretty good about this, right? Like 7 stages is honestly pretty solid overall, and that feels like a result that feels like should be relatively beatable if your killer has a good game.
Yeah, it looks like they might actually try and play for this once the red puke wears off. 7 stages, especially if you can get Gustavo to be the one who dies for this and get 1 extra stage out, basically. Um, 7 stages is still very salvageable, but that's probably why they're playing for this. Because I feel like Sinners kind of have to play a little bit more risky at this point in the game. Oh, if there's another red puke now, you can't.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. There's a pool of corruption right beside this too. That's why I think maybe they were like gonna play the unhook right as the pool got grabbed. I don't know. I'm not really sure what their plan was because I feel like like with how close that pool of corruption was, it feels like there's almost no time to even make a play. So yeah, I think at this point they're probably like they were maybe setting up for something, but I think at this point they probably go right. Like he goes struggle at this point. It's not even worth trading for the Death Hook survivor. The only reason it's worth it is to get him out. Are they still thinking about it? I mean, I guess if you send in Gustavo, like worst case scenario is that they both die. So I was gonna say worst case scenario you end up with the same result, but I guess worst case scenario is that they both die. You give up an additional stage. This is interesting that they're even like thinking about this, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if they can try and bait Marco into walking through the pallet to knock out of power, but I don't know what else your out is here. I think
Yeah. I
I
mean,
think they're gonna miss this timing.
if they unhook him like very last minute, then I think he'll have time for like 1 or 2 corrupt pukes, and that's it. I think. But yeah, Gustav already taken a hit. Oh god. Oh lord. Oh lord. And yeah, we Jason's worth 2 stages. They're just giving up more stages. They're just punting away stages. What are they doing? Oh no! This is gonna be 9 stages now. We Jason's worth 2, I believe.
Getting a
So,
little bit greedy.
oh, what are they doing? Why do they do this? This was so strange, man. Like, Plague with power up is so dangerous to try to unhook against, man. It's not like this is just like a Freddy sitting in front of the hook. This is the corrupt puke Plague, man. That was a very bizarre decision. I don't know. They must have felt confident they were gonna be able to get something more there, but yeah, they just punted away 2 more stages. That's gonna be 9 stages for Calamity now when it would have been 7 had they just left. And that might end up mattering a lot. Could matter a lot to go second game.
This is one of those moments where you pull out the 1v1 tactics, get your lives split up, start the timer when you hear that red puke signal, and say, okay, we've got 60 seconds to wait this out. But
Yeah, or potentially 80, but yeah, I mean, something like that. Yeah, and it's again, that was so bizarre seeing them go for that, and that's gotta feel good if you're Calamity though, right? Like, that was honestly a really rough start to that. Like I feel like, the build from the killer just got completely dismantled immediately, right? Like, both Ruin and Undying just being deleted, honestly, within, like, 30 seconds of the game starting, being down to, like, 1 perk. I mean, that was such a good start for Sinners. It was looking so bad for Calamity, and even in the end there, like, right? Like, him finding Bucky was really good. He found the fresh hook, and he kinda, like, took it from a 4 stage to a 7 stage right there. Maps, right? It's and like there's different things around the map. Everything is different in terms of what you use. Yeah, that could end up playing a role, and it looks like weeJason really seems to love this triple regression build. The same build he's running on Wesker, kind of rocking the same thing in terms of perks.
and double apple this time. So we're gonna have 3 uses of red puke, but they're not gonna be as strong as what we had before. Chase on the hind immediately does get a little bit of a tag of the puke. Now the question will be, does we just want to commit? There's a good chance that he will because Nia is kind of in the uncorrupted area, and I think weeJason does have kind of a decent gen spread in both top and actually wait,
The top
that looks
side
like a
looks
pretty
really
gross
good.
topside 4 gen.
Yeah, that top side. Yeah, there's like a really gross 3 gen up here with that 4 gen. That fourth still really close as well. This top side gen up is actually disgusting, to be honest.
And a red pool, red pool.
Yeah, I think he should definitely try to save that red pool for later if possible, right? Because I think getting a hook top side with that red pull up. No, well, yeah, hey, we'll see what he can do with it. But I think getting a hook up there with this red pull would have been insane. But he can still maybe do the opposite with one of these pulls, maybe more towards bottom side, depending on how this chase goes.
I think he kind of just has to snowball here, and that may be part of the idea. But this Hein making enough distance towards bottom that I don't think you can't drag Hein up to top side with this down anyway. And you see, okay, second corrupt pool right by where Hein went down, and so and it looks like the other one is in mid map. So
Ooh, he
this
can carry
pull by
mid map,
top
yeah.
speed can be pretty good.
Yeah, this is actually a pretty good hook position. This is not terrible. This is still kind of within range of these topside gens where you can pressure them at least a little, right? Like maybe the really deep topside gens, not really, but you can at least pressure them a bit. And yeah, you still have this pool of corruption nearby too. This
We
feels
can
not terrible.
we can possibly see like the red pool's gonna run out, but the survivors have to play a little bit scared because of the range aspect here. But I'm not sure like how much pressure there's actually gonna be. You do have like that corner gen in the topside 4 gen is still kind of safe. You're not weeJason's probably not gonna want to commit to that, and also yeah, the gen that Laktrin's on as well. So the survivors are getting this unhook off while they're pressuring 2 of the further gens in that topside 4 gen, and high kind of body blocking here as well. But they have Caltree. Red pool is gonna come in, and now they're just gonna have to die bottom. And oh
Ooh,
wait, oh, he's going back.
he's actually bailing from Chase, yeah. Hein also had DS, so this ends up being a pretty good decision for Jason, I think. I think had he committed, especially to Hein, that would have, I think, been very costly. Instead comes up here and finds Laser, who hasn't quite been injured yet. Finds a bunch of gens that are also pressure too. Wants to put Eruption down on all of them. So yeah, it feels like he does kind of want to, I think he noticed the really nasty gen setup and does want to play around it at least a bit. Because he's kind of giving Survivor some distance here by kicking these gens. Especially while he's in red puke, right? Like he has his powered up state. And he could try to take advantage and get some hits and downs, but he's like kind of prioritizing the gen regression and kind of holding the gen setup instead and going for the more like control play style.
But this is kind of why we were favoring Calamity for this set going into it. We see time and time again the survivors on Calamity are extremely disciplined and methodical. They're not letting the pressure get to them. They're playing this set out carefully. They were doing a good job of getting away from that gen spread as soon as weeJason came there, not giving anything over. Like, this is one of the survivor teams that I would count on to not throw.
Yeah, they feel like they play very, very solid in terms of like macro and like yeah, not going to be a whole lot of like huge slip ups there. And again, even here, same thing happening. They do pop one of the gens top side, and while Laser's still on the ground, and also it looks like there's going to get another down over here on the hind, but still one of the gens on the top side's broken. Although that is the first gen to pop. Like this is 4 gens still, so like still not a bad spot for weeJason either. Like we're talking about this top side gen up a lot, but like really, there's just not that much gen progression on the map in general. Like, it's really not that bad of a spot for weeJason to be in at all.
Yeah, it could certainly be a lot worse. And weeJason will at least have, you know, the whole pop interruption on top of what Marco was working with. Now that is the last pool coming in. This is the opportunity to try and get a snowball. You have 4 survivors that are all fully injured. Now they need to not be clustered to make sure the snowball doesn't happen. And Laktrin will be the one who's spotted at a jungle gym. Actually, no, it's Hein who's opting to just die on the pallet. Does have DS, as we noted before. And if Hein's got DS, probably also is going to have that smash hit, that parental guidance. You can't really pick this.
Yep.
But
and
we saw Calamity here, too. Did we not?
Oh, she bailed. And yeah, it's smash hit without parental guidance, but still smash hit, right? She can still hit DS, you can still get the pallet stun, and you can bail out of there. That also breaks them out of power, too.
Yeah. With smash hit.
That's pretty massive.
Hein is now also going to be able to make it to top side. I think they already broke 2 of these gens, so now they can afford to chase here, die here, and try and get those bottom side gens. As weeJason has no more puke. It's only M1 from here on out if they don't cleanse.
Yeah, and the setup here is not too bad, right? With that filler, I think is the filler outside the other side still there too. I think it might have been broken, but Hein's gonna be able to buy at least a decent bit of time here, and let his team get some progress down there. Yeah, he saw his filler on this side too. So yeah, he's gonna be able to buy a good bit of time here, and he is death hook, so like him dying here is gonna be pretty big. But how much is it gonna cost me, Jason? Right? That's the answer. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for answering me, Calamity. Thank you. Yeah, at least 2. And actually, Laktrin was close by. He's going to get chased immediately afterwards as well.
And we will get the pick. And again, this death comes in. The gen split, however, is very good. And I don't remember exactly how many stages Calamity need to get out, but I don't think it's really that many. 1 person getting out, two people getting out is definitely enough for them, I think. But
yeah, if they get any fresh hook out, they already went off that alone, because it was 9 stages 4 fresh hooks that was the result last game. So yeah, if they get a single fresh hook out, that's already enough.
Let's see, we got 1 gate here. If we see where the other gate is, the gate RNG here will be a really big deal, because Plague not having any mobility, as long as you just split up and die away from opposite gates. Oh, and they still have cow tree pallet. This is gonna be tragic.
Yeah.
No, he's gonna leave. He has to.
No corrupt pools either. So like all these good setups are just so good, right? Like there's no like trying to do anything here other than kick pallet, go to next pallet is so difficult from this point with these strong setups. Still, is trying to like kind of pressure the map and catch someone in a worse position. He does kind of catch Laktrin in a much worse spot here.
Ping.
And yeah,
okay, there's the eruption value, I guess.
Yep, eruption is coming in, and he can slug this as well. It looks like he is going to. But as long as they pre-leave and keep a lot of distance, this is still going to be really hard, right? Like obviously it would be great to get like a 3-man slug here and kind of end it that way, but again, as long as they play a good solid game on the survivor side, they're going to make that very difficult to do.
So we should take note here real quick. Adam has adrenaline, which seems kind of odd in a play game if you're gonna get, you know, you're not gonna get the heal, but it does mean that if weeJason is going for these slugging tactics and Pedro is one of the ones who slugged, then he will be picked up by the gen pop.
Yeah, which actually could play a big role here because slugging feels like I know what weeJason wants to go for. As a matter of fact, are these survivors are they just leaving Laktrin on the ground and just pressuring those 2 split gens? Because both of his gens had a lot of pressure, and I think they might just be doing that instead. Because Laser, the pickup still hasn't come through, and I'm assuming that hill gen by Shaq is maybe just being worked by Laser right now.
Yeah.
And yeah, there it is. And the speed.
If the adrenaline was what they were going for, like bait the slug on Pedro, but he's just doing a good enough job in chase. And do we have hope in play is the other question.
I think I might have saw it. I might have saw it on a build earlier, but I'm not 100%. I don't know if weeJason can do anything here, right? This feels pretty over.
It should be. Oh, and he's chasing the Hope Survivor, and Country Pallets up.
Oh yeah, yep. You're not. Yeah, there's no way you're catching this guy quickly, and Jack Pallet too. So can easily just go to the God Pallet, throw it. Yeah.
And he's also got fully comp outfit filters. He's definitely cheating. Like, what are you gonna do?
True. And there they go again playing they might even get hatch here, but they get 6 stages out, which is gonna be enough for the win, and that's it. Calamity 3-0s. They 3-0 Sinners in the finals of the losers bracket. That's crazy. What a good performance here.
Yeah, I'm extremely impressed, and this is going to be also a huge confidence boost for Calamity going into that grand finals for the rematch against Elysium.